Hi, my name is Dermot Casey, and aside from the day job, I'm a part-time lecturer. My wife is a teacher, and I have 3 kids in primary school, so I'm very interested in education. And I think we need to blow up the classroom and change it utterly. Just waiting for the slide to advance. A very, very clever man called Marshall McLuhan said this about environments. And it's very obvious when you think about it. I mean, you don't grow plants in a desert. The environment in which you grow things is really, really important. But it's so unstated, it's something we don't think about very often. This is the environment that I grew up in, small rural town, Kirkinshore. And the bridge I crossed back and forth every day going to and from school. A bridge a local poet described as old before Columbus set sail, but not a bridge that's older than the concept of the classroom as we know it. You could step into the classroom of 100 years ago or a lecture theatre of 1,000 years ago and step out of them into the classroom of today and not much would have changed. And it's not something that we think about and we focus on very much because we're so used to it. Now, this isn't about replacing classrooms with technology. The obvious choice in terms of let's get computers for everybody. And we see all these bright, shiny things that the new superhero is the iPad, and people are bringing iPads into schools and they're replacing books with iPads and everything else. Now, it's a bit more fundamental than that. Bill Gates has called for the wrath of Khan, and this Khan, the guy who's produced thousands of educational videos about maths and so on, not the other Khan from Star Trek. But again, that's kind of missing the point in terms of education. It's also missing the points for students. Students are more interested in this sort of Justin Bieber than they are in sort of Khan. We have to take a fundamental approach in terms of how we look at education, the actual structures, the processes, the rigidities, how we've actually formed classes, how people learn, how people understand, and how people think about things. Problem is classes are physically damaging us. Okay, we don't stop to think about it, but sitting is actually a dangerous activity. It's an unnatural activity. Kids, if you look at small kids, they don't actually sit. But a little more fundamentally, I think we're killing people's souls. And it's something we don't think about very much, and it's something we actually need to think about, and we need to think about the purpose of education. What is education for? A lot of the time, education seems to be about control, about forming cogs and wheels, forming machines, people fitting into very nice, neat categories. And that's not what education should be about. I came across this quote recently in terms of the purpose of education. And the whole idea of being unsettled, the world is unsettled. It's a asymmetric, non-linear kind of place. Playgrounds don't reflect the world. Trees and roughness reflect the world. And it's something we need to take into account in terms of education. We want to create an environment where we have kids and we have students who can ask questions, not produce answers. Picasso's a famous statement that said, computers are useless, all they can give you is answers. And the truth isn't out there. X doesn't mark the spot. My 6-and-a-half-year-old, when you ask him what he wants to be, says this: he wants to be an entrepreneurial engineer. And he's well on his way to doing that through the use of Lego and spending hours building these really complicated environments and buildings and so on. This is what an entrepreneurial engineer is to a 6-and-a-half-year-old. Okay, he's a big fan of The Doctor. Okay, this is somebody who works for himself, he does what he loves, he builds, he invents, he creates, he thinks anew about things all the time. So for a 6-and-a-half-year-old, this is where the future is and this is where the action is. I don't see the point in sort of environments like this. So the classroom, secondary school, the lecture theatre with thousands of students. Well, actually I do see the point, and the point is about control. In the 1970s, the avowed aim of Irish education had to save souls written into it, and it kind of reflects the structures of the classroom environment. Thankfully, you can see some of this changing. If you look at primary schools, the classroom environment and structures actually moved along in the last couple of years, and it's more socially focused, more interactive, and more reflects the human environment, whereby kids interact with each other and they work intensely and they learn from each other and they're creative and they're playing off each other all the time. And this sense of creativity and sense of fun and sense of achievement and depth of understanding is really, really important. So this fabulous classroom a few months ago, which was actually focused on the students talking to each other and the students interacting with each other and learning from each other rather than just learning from somebody at the top of the room telling them how the facts are going to be. And I think that's critically important because the most important gifts we have are imagination and creativity. And when I listen to my 7-and-a-half-year-old talk about how he's going to build a spacesuit that's going to travel through time, it's going to be covered in mirrors that are going to reflect all the dangers of the world from it, I can see that creativity and imagination at work. And what we've done is we've created and we've shaped our environment in terms of the tools that we actually use. What we need to do is we need to reshape those. What we need to do is reignite and set fire to people's minds and create a new education and a new classroom environment for people. Thank you very much.